at Village Real Estate Services in December of 2008, after John spent the previous 18 years selling normal homes at another Nashville real estate company. The mission of Infill Nashville is to connect buyers, builders, and the land, including their fellow realtors at every junction. This mission grew out of a local market condition where finding new construction homes and creating new home sites in Nashville's most popular established urban and suburban neighborhoods seemed like an impossible task. He grew from a solo residential realtor in 2009 to a team of 5 realtors and a staff of 3 today. His team includes a certified land planner, formerly a senior planner at Metro Nashville's planning department, and JB considers himself a site selection specialist and uses technology to farm specific areas, mine data, and discover parcels of land that are not currently maximized to their highest and best use. He believes strongly in the Realtor Code of Ethics, which begins with, quote, "under all is the land," unquote, which you see proudly displayed on his team gear, which, by the way, no other members of his team will actually wear. His favorite thing about work is training and mentoring other realtors, rookies, and veterans. And there are some people in the room and who have been on stage today who are in Nashville who can attest to that. The most satisfying thing he does is answer calls and questions from other realtors about land use issues, and he is on the front lines in Nashville and doing things like assisting schools with acquiring adjacent parcels so that they can grow and develop more space for students, etc. A Nashville native, John has been a realtor in Nashville for over 25 years. He is a GNAR Lifetime Award of Excellence recipient, and in 2013 was one of the 15 realtors in the top award category with his of over $20 million and 60 sales, only 30 of which were local MLS listings. And that does not mean that he's an advocate of pocket listings. It just means that his new construction sells so quickly they don't even have time to put it in the MLS. So we won't have that discussion. You can talk about that on break. He spends most of his time in the field. If you are ever driving around Nashville, you will see him in his truck driving around. He is rarely in front of a computer. In addition to a book of business that includes over 700 home sales, he has sold over 1,000 acres of recreation property and specializes in finding specialty properties for groups including universities, schools, churches, nonprofits, and other organizations. He and his very sweet and lovely wife, Helene, have 2 children, Olivia and Grafton. So John is going to talk to you today about what he calls Fieldcraft, and that is his unique way of getting to know your area, your community, the neighborhoods where your listings are, because as he will tell you, the biggest mistake we all make is driving the same way into a neighborhood to our listing and driving the same way back out and not getting to know everything else that is around it. So without further ado, John Brittle. Did someone steal that? Here it is.
Thank you, Maura.
Welcome, sir.
Well, thank you. Andrew's been a speaker for 13 years. I've been a speaker for 13 seconds now. Thank you for that nice introduction. When you work at a company like Village Real Estate in Nashville with people like Kristy, Hairston, and Brian Copeland, if you know him, you don't have to be a speaker. You just have to get out there and do it. And that's kind of what I do. On the idea of stuff that we sold that wasn't on the MLS, we actually put all our new construction homes on the MLS in advance. The 30 out of 60 that we sold last year that weren't on the MLS is because we were knocking on doors and we were cold calling people, and we sell stuff because of the way we do our Fieldcraft. But everything, and my system was set up to protect realtors from builders and developers when the home buyer drives up and there's not a realtor signed yet. My listings all get signed in advance. When we write the offer on the lot, the builder developer signs the listings on the future house. You know you're going to get paid, and nobody's going to say to your buyer, "Hey, now you don't have a realtor, right?" Y'all have had that happen. That didn't happen with our team because they already signed the listing. They already know they're paying the commission. I believe that realtors are trained and then told, go out and get some listings from your friends and your parents' friends and church and school and worship, and or hook up some friends to be home buyers. Get them to sign a buyer broker agreement, and you're done. That's what we do. I've got this idea there's a third piece to it, and I train the realtors around me in how to identify properties that you can get paid on and sell while you're doing your regular residential business. We don't think everybody needs to be a site selection specialist and spend their day out in the field getting dirty. And I used to wear nice clothes. My wife quit buying them for me because I tear them on. I'm in new houses every day. We have over 50 new homes coming in the next 18 months. We have a person on my team on site every construction project every day. And because we can't know what's coming, and we can't answer the phone properly if we don't know what's there. Third strategy of real estate, to me, it's the land. You got buyers, you got sellers, the land, and the real estate itself is what we're selling. Remember, it's out there. Out the windows, that out there, that's real estate. In here, this is relationships somebody was talking about. And we build those relationships with realtors because we want them to call us when they identify something that, hey, JB, I don't think this is just a house. I think there may be more to this. Okay, good. You call us. We'll tell you if you're right or not. If you are, we'll find you a buyer. If we don't have one, we'll tell you what it is, and you can list it. Does a license make you a professional? Does your technology make you better? I believe that all this great technology, and I don't have to know how to use it because I have an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old, and I know Nobu Hata, so I don't. How do you find these targets? What are you paying attention to? I'm concerned that the realtors I know are driving from their home to their work and their listings every day, and they're driving by all that other real estate. I have people say to me almost every week, man, JB, I didn't even know that was there. How did y'all get 4 houses there? I've been driving by that every day for my whole life. Well, I'm looking for the holes. I'm not looking for a house. I'm looking for a space. And I want you guys to look for spaces because there's somebody in your market doing what I'm doing. And if you find that and you call me, you're getting paid today. And you're probably going to get paid a referral fee on the ones on the back end. So what I'm talking about is let's sell some stuff and let your technology manage those clients like you've been hearing and manage that farming area. But I want to farm really detailed. I don't want to farm tens of thousands of people. I want to farm the ones that count. So y'all can manage your circles of influence. You can deal with your buyers and sellers. Talk a little bit about selling dirt. What do you pay attention to that's while you're in the field? You come back to my office, you're on my team, and you showed a house that we had talked about. If I go show that house the next day, and there's something next door or across the street or down 4 doors, and you didn't call and say, hey, I saw this on the street. I want to know, were you sleeping? Were you texting and driving? What were you doing? Do you know who the experts are? There's somebody in your market, probably in a city the Atlanta size, there are probably 20, 25 residential realtors doing what I do. I already talked about that. You've heard about getting in the media. If you are the expert, those guys in the media will call you. I was so excited. I told the speaker from Chicago, was it the girl who does the Atlanta Agent magazine, Stephanie. Gosh, I wish I'd learned that 25 years ago. I learned it about 3 years ago because I hired somebody. And I get quoted in the paper pretty regularly in Nashville. Do the realty tools you have guarantee success? I want your field awareness to be about finding something you can sell. And I equate real estate fieldcraft to hunting and fishing. And we're in the South. We may not all be from the South, but we kill stuff and eat it down here. And deer hunt, and you probably know people who are deer hunters or bass fishermen. My question for you is, if I drag you down to Bass Pro Shops today and buy you a boat and a trailer and a whole bunch of fishing gear and a fishing license and drag you out to the lake, are you a bass fisherman? Absolutely not. Same thing with deer hunting. If we go and buy you all the gear and put you in a tree with a rifle, are you anything other than a menace to society? No, you're not. Getting a real estate license doesn't make you an authority. you doing the work and finding out where those targets are. We're not trying to kill them, remember. We're just trying to get close to them. If you're hunting that deer with a bow and arrow, you can get about as far away from him as that back of that wall. You guys place yourselves all the time at open houses and at events because you want to meet the people. Driving. We talk about driving all the time. It's what we do. We have to spend our day in the car. I want you to take a different route every single day. Drives my wife up the wall. My kids won't even get in the car with me. My daughter won't ride with me because I carry all this gear on my belt, and she just won't get out of the car with me. I want you to take a different route to work, not because I believe you're a target for assassination, but because I think that you can't see what's going on in this neighborhood you claim to be an authority on if you're not going up and down the street. I have a map on my wall, and we use some technology for this. I use some run trackers and all kinds of different things that show all the circles I make every day. I do about 100 miles a day, and I don't leave an area that's about 2 by 2 miles. I do these streets like this. We do it because there are survey stakes out there. This is a bass track. This is, if you're a fisherman in the crowd, this is your thing on your boat that you see. Maura told me not to go over there. I'm supposed to stay over here. That shows you the fish, but it only shows you the fish if they're under the boat. You got to get close to it. You can't compete if you don't know what's out there in the neighborhood you're working in. This dad and this kid, they could be on that lake all day and not catch a fish. This is one of the guys on my team. He guides trout fishing in Colorado. He can put you on that fish because he knows where they are. Before and beyond the MLS, this sign to me is not, hey, congrats, graduate. It's, we're now empty nesters. This sign, it's twins. It's a cute one, by the way, with the storks and all. We've outgrown our house. That's what that means to me. So, do I want to send 500 pieces of mail to a neighborhood? No, I don't. I believe you can drive down the streets of the neighborhood. Walk them is even better. You get out there and walk that street every day. Go park your car at a different place. Walk a part of it. Make notes. I promise you, if you pull up in front, and if somebody's working in the front yard, I own them. If you're out in front of your house, I got you. And then here's how we do it. So she's down there working in her front yard. I park 4 doors away, and I come and take the picture of that house, one across the street. Come down, take a picture of this house, one across the street. And after I do 8 or 10, it's human nature. She has to know. And I get down, and I say, wow, your garden's beautiful. Picture of her house. Turn around. Now I'm walking away. She's like, wait. I got her. She's mine. I own her. People want to know, what are you doing? Well, I'm a residential realtor, and I'm doing a survey of your neighborhood, and we're studying housing types and who's coming and who's going and why they're buying here. Really? Yes, ma'am. Well, that lady 2 doors down, she's just moved into the home. Oh, really? Well, do you know how I can reach her kids? Well, sure. Here, hang on. Come in the kitchen. And so what we're trying to do, my team and I sold, and we sold about half of what we sold last year that was on the MLS and half that wasn't. My numbers are different than some of the people do their team numbers because I don't take credit for what the team sells. So these are my personal numbers. The team stuff was on them. We sold a bunch of houses last year. We have, we want to do some things that nobody does, I believe. I know, I have people call me. The way I make my money is somebody calls me and says, hey, I've got a house coming for sale. I believe it's a lot. Okay, tell me where it is. I'll call you back in 10 minutes. If you call me and ask me that, because I believe in realtor community, I'm going to tell you what I really think it's worth. I'm also going to tell you if I have a buyer. I'm going to say, I have a buyer for that. I believe it's worth this range, but I want you to price it yourself because I'm going to sell it. I'll tell you exactly what it's worth because I don't mind my guys paying retail for it. And if I tell you what it's worth, then we sell it. You don't have to go get other opinions and put it on the MLS and get a bidding war going because we already agreed to pay you what it was worth. And you know it because you've already done the research. You would just call to get my opinion. Use those people. I get a call from an appraiser every single day. So my team takes the home buyer calls. I take the appraiser calls. Every appraiser call comes to me because I need my market to work. I need my market to be successful. And you take that appraiser call right at the end after you've helped them with the comps, because so much in our market is like y'all's. Sells the first day. We had 8 offers. The appraiser never gets in. No realtors ever got in. Heck, the home buyer may have bought it before they went in. So use these people. Meet these realtors in your market who are selling new homes. Because if you've got a home buyer that wants a new house in your market and you keep missing them, it's because you're not digging deeply enough. You've got to go find that house before it comes on the market, because my guys aren't listing stuff on the MLS because they just don't want to customize the house. They want to finish it the way they want to finish it and then sell it. They've hired designers and architects, and they don't need you or your buyer telling them what tile to use. Now, we give you some choices. You get to pick the paint colors. You might get to pick the stain color on the floor and the finish of it. And what I do in infill situations is we do 1-ofs and 2-ofs, and we do 4 and 6. But we don't have a model home. And the developer or investor really doesn't know what they're going to put in it anyway, so I can't get a spec and allowance sheet because they don't know. And the price keeps changing every week. So we usually list them when we get the cabinetry in and the granite and stone and stuff in. And then we list it. But that entire time, and people are calling me, and we have on our website the ones that aren't on the MLS, and you can go and see what we believe the price range is. And if you want to sell it, you can come sell it. We don't. It's not about keeping realtors out of it or not paying you. You know that you can have tons of gadgets. The gadgets are only good if you've got some clients. And we believe that in addition to your clients, we can show you how. Here's Atlanta. Golly, Atlanta's big. Man. I grew up with both sets of grandparents in Florida, so I drove from Nashville through Atlanta for the last 40 years, and I've seen y'all do your thing. I called Ben Neill about a month ago and said, "Where was that last listing you sold?" He said, "Kirkwood." Okay. So I went and found Kirkwood, and I went driving around Kirkwood, got down in there, and there is some technology, you can zoom in on all these things and look at the photos of the houses and look at all that stuff. You can't really do it. And you can look at Watson Circle Southeast. And you can go over and see that pretty big old piece of dirt that I found before I looked at the aerials. I drove over there and spent 45 minutes. It's behind a church. It's in a big hole. There's a bunch of water over there. Survey stakes. Wow, that was exciting. Help! This is what I do with my team at home. This is why I don't have any technology, because like I said, I'm out driving around. And I'm not really clicking it every time I do that. I was just willing it to move backwards. Okay, technology. I believe that I can drive a neighborhood or walk it with you, and I believe I can tell you the next 10 houses that are going to sell in that neighborhood. But why farm everybody? If you can drive down the street, look at the homes, and say, well, we just looked at 100 homes, it took an hour, or we looked at 200, and we picked these 10. Those are the 10 you need to farm. You know the ones. Window air conditioners. We track permits in my market. Demolition permits, new construction permits. We track complaints at codes. There's all kinds of data that your city has. And your city will just give you all that stuff. Go meet your council member. If you're the authority on a neighborhood and you haven't sat down with the council member, you're almost the authority in the neighborhood. Because that council member, when you walk up to them, when you set an appointment with them, thank you so much. When you set an appointment with that council member and you say, come in with a map from their district. Council member, you may know me or my company and give me your little spiel. I'm interested in developing, whether it's one house or 10. We're not this big, huge development, guys. We want to come in, we're going to replace the crack house or the slumlord house. And my guys and I know zoning rules. I have a team member at every Metro Council meeting every 2 weeks, every Planning Commission meeting every 2 weeks, every Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, every Historic Commission meeting, every Stormwater Appeals Board. We go to Neighborhood Association meeting. We go, if the mayor's walking the greenways in our town, somebody from my team is walking the greenways, because we're placing ourselves. In Nashville at the Metro Planning Commission, you get up and 11 people are up there looking down at you, and there's a podium. You get up from the crowd. The video camera's up in that corner. When you get up to speak, we sit in chair 1 and 3 in the second row because you're on TV the whole time. So whoever's speaking at the Metro Council in Nashville, I'm right there. And you don't get to have my seat because I beat you there by 30 minutes. Because I was there talking to the planning commissioners before, and I was talking to the council members before. You don't want to meet the council member 5 minutes before they're voting on your thing. You want to meet them 5 months before they're voting on your thing. Everybody here today is giving you great, great advice you should take. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't. That's why my friends travel the country and speak and share all their secrets, because they know most people aren't going to do it. But if you don't worry about Zillow, goodness gracious, don't worry about Trulia. They're tools for realtors. Those things don't sell houses. They help realtors sell houses. At some point, you have to get in front of, God knows it, you have to get in front of a buyer or in front of a seller or in front of both of them, because this is a people business. You also have to get out there where the real estate is, and it's why my guys and I get dirty and tear our pants and get our boots muddy every day. Carry rain gear. I have a go bag. I won't stop just because the weather, it's kind of hot down here in Atlanta. Nashville's the same way. We're in a big bowl, and we carry extra shirts all day, every day, and extra hats for when we sweat through them. Maura, I've challenged these guys to go out into Atlanta and get out in the field. And you know what? I think they are. They were looking at me. I spoke a lot more slowly than the
So they were
Boston
awake, is what you're saying?
They were.
Their eyes were open.
They were.
Great.
I think they were. And so, remember, it's not just about the house you're going to show and sell. For goodness sakes, when you get up to that front door and you're fiddling with the lockbox, do what the home buyer's doing. Because while you're doing that, remember, here's what they're doing. They're right behind you on the front porch going, looking around to see what they can see. And if you get back and they're going to say, well, that one across the street was really horrible. If you don't know what they're talking about, they think you weren't looking, because you weren't. I will chastise you because I needed to know about that one across the street. You might not sell that person that house. You call me and I will absolutely sell the one across the street with you and pay you. So keep your eyes open and find out who's doing the fixer-uppers and the tear-downs and the new construction in your market, because they will share it with you.
So you're going to chastise our Atlanta agents? Is that what you're saying?
Only if they don't pay attention.
Well, that makes sense then, doesn't it?
Thank you.
Don't you go far. You're on my panel.
Okay.
Thank you. So how fascinating is the stuff he does? We drive around, whenever my husband and I go to Nashville, we try to take an opportunity to drive around with John, even if it's just for an hour. He can point out to you and tell you the story of every house on a street where he has a listing. And I'm sure that he said this in his presentation, but when they buy a house to tear down or when they list a house to sell, he goes up and down the street and knocks on all the doors. You forgot that. Okay, so I'm going to tell you this story, and then we're going to do our panel. He goes up and down the street and knocks on all the doors. And he says something along the lines of, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm John Brittle. We're going to tear down that house across the street, and it's going to get really noisy and messy here for a couple of months because we're going to build a new one in its place. This is my card. If you need something, you need to call me. Don't call the number on the builder's sign. Don't call the number on the side of the dumpster. They're not going to come and help you. But if you need something, you need to call me. Do you think that gets him business? Absolutely. So when the lady had the construction tarp fly across off the house and land in a tree in her front yard, who did she call? And what did you get out there in 24 hours? One of those cherry picker trucks to get that tarp out of her tree. So do you think you could do that when you list just a normal house? Walk up and down the street and knock on the doors and say, you know, you might see a lot of traffic on the street in the next couple of days. If somebody takes flyers out of the flyer box and scatters them all over because they get wet and they stick together and they take one and they shake them, right? And then they go all over the front lawn. You know, just give me a call and I'll make sure that that gets taken care of. Do you think you'll get some raving fans that way who wouldn't have known your name before except for it being on the sign? Absolutely. So we're going to move on. We have another panel for you. And I'm going to call up John and Kristy and Nobu and Tim Herr, who are my panelists for old school versus new school marketing techniques. So come on up, guys. John is high tech. We're missing Tim Herr, but he might be taking a nap. That's okay. So, like I said right before John's session, today is mostly about technology, and that's fantastic. But if you learned anything from listening to John for the past 25 minutes, and something that most of us in this room recognize, is that technology and new school and social media, that's all great, but they are just tools. Like Andrew said in the Realtor.com session, the stuff that he talked about today are tools for you to use. They're not the end-all, be-all. And when we talk to brand new agents who are new to the business, or even veteran agents who start going to technology classes and they're told, you know, you have to have a Twitter account, or if you're not putting videos on YouTube, you're just not going to sell anything. They put all their time and energy into these new techniques, or techniques that are new to them, and they sit back and they say, well, why isn't, I got a Twitter account. Why aren't the clients just flocking to me? It's because they've signed up for all these tools, but they're not using them correctly. So we're going to talk a little bit today about old school techniques that we need to get back to doing, and ways that we can integrate them with new school techniques. And you've seen all of these pretty faces up here already, at least once today. We've got Tim Herr again, John Brittle from Nashville, Kristy Hairston from Nashville, and of course Nobu Hata. So let's talk a little bit about new school stuff first, because that's kind of what the day is about. New technology, social media, what's brand new on the horizon that's different than the normal technology stuff. Maybe start with you, Nobu. What are you seeing agents using?
Maybe I'll come at this. My wife is now a realtor in Chicago, I mentioned before, so maybe I'll come with it that way. Here's what I told my wife to prepare for, and it's something I'll talk about in the next session. But
don't give it all away.
Yeah. I think in general, the coming technology that scares the hell out of me and intrigues me at the same time is this whole idea about on-demand. Our whole lives right now are on-demand, and it's not because of an app, not because of anything. It's because we all have supercomputers in our pockets right now, and I can search for anything I want to search for right now. And then in some cases, like in Chicago, I can call a cab, a taxi, or whatever I want with a click of a button. I can order clothes, a trunk full of clothes, off of an app that I just downloaded. And in real estate, the last real estate app that was really cool that I saw is I can go and apply for a lease on a home. It pulls my credit, does all that other stuff, and then I get in the app. It tells me if I've been approved for that technology. I would say be prepared for and start talking about as much as you can the fact that on-demand technology in real estate absolutely sucks. There's an app right now that's out there that allows me to sit in front of your home, your listing, and I can call the first agent available to show me the house right now. It shows me where they are, and it allows me to show it. And actually, Tiffany, we know the guy, right? So that kind of technology scares me. That technology intrigues the hell out of me, but it's something that we all should be prepared for right now.
Are you saying it's like it shows like little Uber black cars going
It's
around? It
Uber
shows
real
little
estate.
realtor. It shows little realtor signs.
It's literally a grinning face that says, "Hi, what's his name, and I can show you the house right now." Me too. Me too. Me too. We've marginalized ourselves so much as real estate agents by not conveying value that this is the kind of app that consumers will go crazy for.
I'm Asian. I'm going to
Right now.
steal that app and make it better. That's a great idea.
Mine's going to look like a little Pac-Man thing that's going to eat all the other little
Oh my
apps.
gosh. I have lost control already. Okay, so Tim, let's go with you. So something cool that's up and coming or that you've started using in your business that's new to you, that's fantastic, technological, useful.
I haven't used really. I mean, yeah, it's really. We all. You nailed it on the head. And we all try out the new things, and then it just doesn't really fit with me. So I'm still back to my old school days of just still. I mean, I still integrate my videos. I still have if you were here for my earlier panel, I do work with international clients. So I still have to use my Skype and my Google Chat and show the video with my phone with my phones. I'm instant, just do instant time. And then I'm using my chat programs. If you work with Korean clients, you have to use Kakao. If you use Chinese clients, you have to use Weibo. If you use Japanese clients, you have to use Line or WhatsApp. So the different chat programs, I have to maintain them all on my phone.
Does everyone know what, for example, does everyone know what WhatsApp is? Does everyone? So talk a little bit about WhatsApp.
Sure. So we are used to texting, right? But unfortunately, texting internationally costs money. These carriers are now nickel and diming us to death. So there's now internet-based. As long as you have data, you can now chat with internet using these different programs. As long as both of you have the same chat program. So there's WhatsApp, which is readily used in South America and Africa and in Europe. Asian WhatsApp, 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 yeah. And again, they're for Android, BlackBerry, and Apple. You get BlackBerry Message. BBM is making a comeback in Africa. Again, Asian countries, depending on who you talk to in Asia, they will use either Line, Kakao, or Weibo.
So texting doesn't sound very innovative and brand new, but if you've had international clients or you are looking to get into working with that niche, it's really important. We have American clients right now who live in Germany, and we were running into during the negotiation not being able to get to them as immediately as we needed to. Their Wi-Fi in their apartment that they rent is not fantastic, but they were able to text with us on WhatsApp and do that for free, because not only is it a free app, but it doesn't come with the texting charges.
And email can be slow. Trust me, when you try to do an email conversation, it's just like, you have to wait for it to download.
Waiting for it to come through.
Yeah.
I still don't have
Yeah.
it. I'm waiting.
Yeah.
Kristy?
Well, I was going to say, I don't know how new this is, but Google Plus is something that I've been getting back into for a number of reasons. One of those is if I post a new listing on Google Plus, and I do certain hashtags, when someone searches for a house in that city, even though I'm not paying for SEO, Google Plus is pulling that up to like number 4. And it's Google, so they can do whatever they want. But I'm saying if a lot of people search google.com for whatever it is they're looking for, if you're using Google Plus and you put in a post there, certain hashtags, and you go back and you search that in Google, you're now showing up on like number 4 or 5 on that list, right? I mean,
The risk that, basically, if you're doing if you're doing some really cool things with your marketing that way, video, things like that, Google Plus is actually a great thing to do, but you better take it off of Google Plus when you sell it. You don't do that, now your MLS guys are all ticked off at you.
But for blogging and for video
for
marketing,
blogging, for video, for any types of posts that you're doing, maybe if it's not like listing related, but it is pulling a lot of SEO power. So we're seeing that a lot more right now.
It's been proven, actually. If you look at some of the bigger companies, do a search for, like, if you go to the bigger company like Delta or American Airlines or even like Priceline, they all update their Google Plus account. They don't update their Facebook account. There's a reason why. Because if you do a search, that's the first thing that pops up because it is integrated with Google Plus.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about that, because would most of you in this room say that if you are on Facebook and Google Plus that you actually prefer Facebook more because it's what you're familiar with? Is that a pretty accurate statement? But if you're posting, say, a link to a great blog post you just wrote and you post it on Facebook, is the consumer going to find it if they don't like your page? Probably not, right?
Not if you don't pay for it anymore, too, because
Not if you
Facebook.
don't.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, and even if they do like your page, they may not see it unless they physically go to your page. So Google Plus has the SEO capability that Facebook won't allow Google to see into it. So even though Google Plus isn't technically new, it's something that people are slowly discovering and using as a really valuable tool. John Brittle, talk to us about your new school strategy. Come on, I know you use technology, data mining. You're using it in a very different way than probably most of the people in this room.
We're taking data from multiple sources and just merging data. And we're searching for different types of properties based on the width or the acreage or how long the owner has owned it. And if I'm looking for a fixer-upper or a tear-down or something, I'm not looking for something that somebody bought in the last 5 years. And so I'm taking out parts. I mean, there are 275,000 parcels in Davidson County in Nashville. And I have that database on an Access file, and we mine that certain ways. And unfortunately, we have to combine it with different databases. And so, yeah, I don't know anything about that, but I pay somebody to do that, yes.
Well, how many of us in the room know how many parcels there are in Fulton County? Or how many parcels there are in Forsyth or Cobb or DeKalb? So it's looking at data and using that technology in a very different way and starting to think about it differently. Is that something that you have access to? Absolutely. It's just training your brain to wrap yourself around that kind of information.
And I think that one of the things that we do that impresses home buyers who have had trouble finding a house, we get a call and they say, well, my agents ask, do you have a realtor? Because we've worked for days and days with people and then find out they have a buyer-broker agreement signed and somebody forgot to ask. Well, yes, but the last 4 houses they found me were all already sold and I just don't think they're doing their job. Well, maybe they aren't. They probably are. It's just you're in a market that the houses are all selling the first day. And by the way, they called you and you didn't respond for 4 days. So what do you expect them to do? But if you're tracking the building permits, if you ask those good questions like where do you want to be, your permit department will tell you by zip code or however they map it, all the new building permits that were pulled in the last 90 days. You now know where all the new houses are that are coming. So there are some ways to get out there and find some stuff in advance.
So calling the permit office, that sort of segues us into an old school way of thinking about real estate. So what are some other things that you're doing that are old school, Nobu, or what is Shay doing?
Actually, to add to what John was talking about, and this is something that I'm seeing more and more. Now that I work for NAR, it's kind of interesting to the conversations I've been involved in. John talked about data. The city of Chicago, which is broke, is doing some really cool things with their data. They realize that behind their coffers, behind their closed doors, is a treasure trove of data that they are starting to release to the public. Everything about Chicago, period, at the beginning of time, is now available, including what John was talking about. It's like, honey, you shouldn't rely on builders to go and tell you where the new construction's at. All you need to do is go to chicagocityopendata.gov or something crazy like that, and it actually goes and shows you all the building permits being pulled. The whole idea about big data surfacing, kind of what RPR does, all of that stuff is now being surfaced to the public. It's amazing. And that's what I told my wife. We'll look at all the free stuff first.
Absolutely.
Most realtors, they go out and buy those solutions for problems that you don't have because this is what these tech guys do. These guys in Palo Alto, right, who have never bought a house before, come up to you and say, dude, I had a friend who had a really bad problem, like one friend, who had a really bad problem with their buyer or seller. This is the thing I came up with for that. Buy it. And agents say, okay, stop it.
It's the hemorrhaging money that either Andrew talked about or it might have been Chris in the RPR session.
Yeah.
It's the conference syndrome. I know there are people in this room that you go to a trade show and you just start slapping down that credit card. buying zip codes? Okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We will get to that. So, did you have anything else to add?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So using the free tools. So what are some other old school things that we're doing, Tim?
I think a lot of, and I do talk to a lot of real estate agents. I sit as the president of the Asian Real Estate Association for the Atlanta chapter as well. We forget to network. Trust me, people are so ingrained on trying to make their business work behind a computer screen, trying to figure out like what is the new trend, then they forget to go out and mingle with people and tell them what you do for a living. Because what's the biggest segue in? Hi, Maura.
Hey, good to see you.
Hey, how are you? Yeah. Hey, so, how are your kids?
I don't
Wait,
have
you don't have
any
kids. How are your pets?
My dogs are great.
Yeah, how are the babies, right?
Yeah, my babies.
We forget this day-to-day interaction. A lot of us really are we're chasing those leads, we're going on the internet, but we don't go out and network.
What is the first question that someone asks you when they meet you at a cocktail party? Other
What
than,
do you
hi,
do?
how are you?
How's the market?
What do you do? If they know you're an agent, they'll ask you how your market is.
And then the next question is, how's your market? So that's an invitation for you to share your knowledge and your experience. So who are you networking with?
Well, I mean, I get called. I mean, tell people that you can do a home buying seminar. Did you be more than happy to? I mean, I just did one for a nonprofit. They called me. They're like, hey, we just had somebody back out. Would you be willing to do a home buying seminar? Sure, absolutely. That's 20 people that I'm automatically in front of that are. And the first question, of course, I always ask when I do a home buying seminar is, who all is represented in this room? Not one person will raise their hand because it's a home buying seminar. 20 new leads or 20 referrals. And I tell them that. I was like, hey, if I don't service your market, be more than happy to find you one.
And do you remember when those were the buzz of conferences? You know, everybody was speaking about how to do a home buyer seminar. And they kind of fell off for a while because when things were booming, we all had more than enough business and we didn't care to spend a Thursday night in the classroom. And then when things got bad, we didn't want to spend the money to feed the hungry buyers who wouldn't come to the home buyer seminar unless we fed them, right? So it's becoming a trend again that we're seeing in a lot of markets around the country. John, and then I'd like to hear from Kristy.
Go to your local college or university and go to their housing or go to their graduate program and tell them that you want to give that class to their graduating seniors. I've done it so many times. They will put you right over in the conference room at the base of the dorm and let you discuss with, take a mortgage person with you and talk to these graduating seniors. Their college will let you come onto the campus.
On top of that, go to these kids' marketing departments. Go to the schools there and say, hey, somebody build me a website. Somebody build me a video of what I want to do for my marketing. Crowdsource all that stuff. Stop ripping each other off because we're like, yay, mediocrity. That's what real estate looks like right now, right?
And get yourself an intern.
Get yourself an intern. Start empowering yourself. Crowdsource all the cool stuff from the next generation of buyers and sellers.
That was so much good stuff. I was thinking the other part you could do as a photographer. There's so many kids who are in photography school that we could get and do those like city tours. They were talking about neighborhood tours. I used to have a guy who was in photography school. He would go shoot houses for us. It was a good way for him to practice. It was a good way for me to do it for less money than what the market was going for those kind of photography pictures. The other thing I was going to say is in relation to something they were talking about with networking. We've got a lot of agents now that are going back and saying, what kind of service or gift can I provide to my sphere of influence by having maybe a networking event with them. There's one girl, she just said, you know what, I got a lot of small business owners who are in my sphere of influence. And it doesn't have anything to do with real estate, but she thought, you know what, a lot of them don't even know how to use Facebook, and they think they want to do that for their business. I'm just going to get together. We're just going to have Tech Tuesdays, twice a month, and we're all going to get together, and I'm going to talk to them about tech. It was her way of being in front of her sphere of influence, not just talking about real estate, but then, talking about something that they care about. So she's adding value to their life, and she's staying top of mind with them when they have a referral to give. And she just does that sometimes in our office. That's free. Or, it's not costing her any money to do that, and she's providing value.
And she's giving back to other small businesses because we're all small businesses at the end of the day. But Kristy, you and I were talking about earlier today about some traditional marketing stuff that you're doing and seeing a lot of success.
I know somebody said earlier, I can't believe that Just Listed and Just Sold cards are like old school. But I mean, there was a time where we just focused all of our attention online. So right now we're doing, just even at the base, 35 postcards that we send out with just listed and just sold product, right? Where we go and we change maybe the last paragraph of that talks a little bit about the house or use a testimonial from the client. And what we're doing, instead of just blanketly sending it out to the neighborhood, you know, I talked earlier about those expireds and things like that. If it's not expired, I'll go and I'll pull the neighborhood through our tax record. Ours is CRS. I don't know what you guys are, but we pull the tax record and I search for properties that have been sold before 2009 or something, right? So it's not like somebody who just bought a house in the last 3 years. And then I kind of look at the list, figure it out, and I pick the ones that I want to send it to and send those out. On those 35 cards that we sent out, I got 3 listing appointments. I went on 2 of them this week. That's more than a 10%. That's almost 10% on something that was just 35 cards. And I think when we think about farming, we think, oh, let me just go throw some cards at a neighborhood, you know, just randomly. And what we're saying in that mining idea is you got a free tool with CRS to figure out who's sold recently, who hasn't, and how can I focus my attention on them.
Does your MLS have multifamily section where the duplexes and the triplexes and all that are? And so you're watching your MLS, everything that's new every day, and that duplex comes on the market, and you say, gosh, I wish I had somebody who was an investor to buy that. Come on. Okay, well, you do. Go into the tax function, go within about 4 blocks of there, a half a mile, and pull up every duplex. Remember that duplex that just got listed, it doesn't have a sign. You know how it says, do not disturb the tenants? Because they didn't put a sign up because they don't want them to know it's for sale. Well, that means that the guy or the lady or the trust that already owns 5 duplexes in that neighborhood, they don't know it's for sale either. You know how many rental properties I've sold just because we cold called somebody and said, hey, Mr. Hata, I noticed you have 3 duplexes in this neighborhood. Did someone call you and tell you this one next door to the one you own just came on the market? Gosh, no, John, they didn't. Sold. You guys, it would make you cry if you knew how many listings I had sold because the listing agent put in the MLS and didn't bother to call.
It's funny that lack of inventory in Chicago is an issue. My wife, a realtor there, tell you multiple offers. You haven't lost one truly until you go $55,000 over and you still lose cash. Yeah. So what happens in Chicago now is my wife has now had to use data to go and scrounge. And what she did, and this goes back to its content, which is what Jeff was talking about. There are beautiful duplexes and triplexes in Chicago that people are now refurbishing into single-family homes. Yeah, right?
We do that.
So the question was, with some of my wife's clients, was how do you rezone? It's literally a 10-minute call to the city because the city wants less density in some of the places where they're at. She put that on her website. How do you rezone land, right? She had 3 of her clients, because of lack of inventory, end up buying duplexes and triplexes and convert. It ended up being cheaper for them to do that rather than going $100,000 over cash on a property. Spend it and build the dream home that you want with a 5-minute phone call to the city of Chicago, right? So content was huge for her, and she educates her clients via her website. Boom, run with it. We can all do that.
I want to just take a quick second about those sold postcards and just listed postcards. Please proofread. You do not understand how many of those cards I do get in my condo complex that has grammatical and spelling. I'm Asian. I'm the one that's allowed to have the spelling and grammatical errors.
We just slide your house next door to you.
We slide it.
Yeah.
We slide it.
Or the contact information or the website is hidden because of all the postage stuff that needs to be printed on the bottom. There's so many of those. When I get those, I'm like, you just wasted. Well, number one, you shouldn't have sent it to me, so you just wasted 30 cents by sending it to another realtor. But number 2, I'm like, I would never hire you because if you can't even spell right and you can't click on spell check once, I can't work with you. But it drives me nuts. You know how many of those I get? Old school, right there. Spell check. Right?
Wow. Good grammar and punctuation and spelling matters. Absolutely. And and along those same lines, we were talking about texting earlier. We've had so many clients. I'm a former English professor, so it kind of matters. And I have a big problem with LOL and OMG and shortening words that don't, like the word be is 2 letters. So you don't have to leave the E off. It takes you like a millisecond to write BE instead of B. So we've had so many clients say to us that even though they prefer texting, like texting back and forth to negotiate if they're at work, they prefer to be able to understand what it is we're saying. And so they appreciate the fact that, I tell my buyer's agent and my assistant, if you're going to text with a client, you absolutely cannot do these weird text shortening words and abbreviating. And I think the same thing goes for our MLS listings. The abbreviations that we use for each other, like fireplace is FIREPLACE. It's not FLPC. No one knows what that is.
I had to Google that the other day, and I was like, what is this?
So we're limited, right? It's like Twitter on steroids. We get, instead of 140 characters, we get 500 for our listings. You can fit everything you need to say about that house into 500 characters. These weird abbreviations that we use that then get syndicated out via big data to all of these other websites, the consumer doesn't really always get it, and then it might cause them to not look at your listing because they didn't understand what they were reading. So grammar, spelling, punctuation, it's not old school. It matters now. Yeah. And so let's talk really quickly because we did have a question about buying leads. And I think the big misconception is you go on Zillow or Trulia or even Realtor.com, you buy a zip code, right? And then the expectation is that all these people just line up and try to beat down your door and want to work with you. But it takes a lot of work, right? It takes the networking. It takes the follow-up. So for how many of you are actually have or currently own a zip code? I know you did at one time, right, John?
I just did. I'm going to try it out.
Okay. And Kristy, do you buy into a zip code now, or you did in the?
Yes, I still have one. I still use a few zip codes with a few products. I'll just tell you, we all have List Hub or some kind of syndication where you can go in and actually see who are the top sites where people actually go look. Remember we talked about that return on investment? So I used to buy zip codes from a lot of different sources. Now I'm just kind of down to Realtor.com and one other place, but Zillow still. But there's a thought pattern behind it. One is you can't just buy a zip code and get all 100%. Okay, so everything is changing now. It's like percentages of the zip code. So then they say, okay, well, if you want to get the most for your money, you need to buy at least this much. Some people are spending, thousands of dollars for that. And if you are going to do that, then you really need to pay attention to it because otherwise you'll look back a year later, you spent a minimum of $12,000. And they always get you with this one line, right? Close one deal. You've already paid for that. Okay, yeah. But in addition to that, you've had to spend extra time and attention on trying to make that one deal work. And what else could you do with $12,000?
What I would say is, and this is when Sandy, she's not here. Oh, Sandy, there you are. Carefully edit this one out. I don't care what you guys do with your buying your zip codes. All I know for a fact is this. Everyone I know who's buying the zip codes from the websites that are out there you can buy zip codes from, all they want to do is buy more. Because they do two things and do two things really well. They've got a damn good CRM. They've got a damn good CRM that they go and reference every day, and they've got multiple people helping them manage these zip codes. Because, and Maura talked about it, these people are not looking, most of them anyways, aren't looking to buy now, but at some point they are going to buy or they're going to especially sell later. And what we don't do very well as an industry, and this is something now that I've taken a step out of it, we are too transaction oriented. We're not people oriented anymore. So if you're thinking long term and you have the CRM and you have the policies and you have the procedures to help nurture leads, you will cash in on 100%. Every single one of those people will buy at some point. They're just not all ready to buy or sell now.
And to his point, I do have my assistant who doubles as a lead coordinator. That is what she does every day. You remember I talked about earlier going in, looking at the activity of what somebody's doing. That's what it takes in order to kind of take up your conversion level. So if you think you're just going to get an email every now and then from somebody and they're going to be ready to buy now and you're going to cash in on this 3-month investment, it's really not that way. You do have to focus that as a part of your business plan if you're going to do it.
And go ahead.
I was just going to tell you to buy my zip code and just give me all the referrals.
And I strongly suggest, we went through about a year of getting pretty consistent leads from Zillow without paying for anything. So I thought, okay, what's going to happen if I pay for something. Before we did that, we put a very strict follow-up plan in place. And it has to be different than the plan that you have for, say, your referral customers and your past clients and those types of people. Because that consumer, even though they reach out to you, they still have this desire to stay a bit anonymous, even though they've given you their name and maybe their correct email, and if you're lucky, their right phone number. So, for example, we had a lead come in the other night, and my husband emailed them, and the guy emailed back immediately, which means right email, and also that he was still sitting at his computer. So that gives you some credence to the get back in touch right away. And he said, I really prefer not to talk. I prefer only to email for now. Okay. So we're going to make sure that everything that we do for him is on an email-only follow-up. So it takes that strict, consistent follow-up, but also flexibility. And I think it's using a mixture of everything that's been talked about today. So if you use BombBomb, or if you saw Lee Brown's class here back in April, she doesn't use BombBomb, but she literally gets a lead in, shoots a 10-second video on her phone. Hey, this is Lee Brown. Thank you so much for contacting me. I'm out showing properties right now, but I'm going to get in touch with you in the next 24 hours to see how I can help. And she says their name. So I love the winter, spring, summer, fall guy who has 4 different BombBomb videos for every season of the year. But she actually says their name. Hey, Christina, this is Lee Brown. I just wanted you to know I'm a real person. I got your lead, and I'm going to reach out to you as soon as I'm done with these clients, or as soon as I'm out of this closing, or at a time that's convenient for you, and sends it. Text it, email it, reach out to them through a variety of mediums. Send them that neighborhood video. What are some other things that you guys are doing to follow up with, whether it's an anonymous lead or a referral? What are some varied ways of follow-up as we wind down this session?
Follow-up, you're talking about immediate to contacts when somebody calls it?
What are your follow-up plan? What's your strategy to keep in touch as you're
If I drive by your house, I call you. I do. If I sold you your house and I drive by it, I call you.
What do you say?
I say, hey, Nobu, man, I just drove by your house. I hadn't seen you in 6 months. I was thinking about you. I threw something, didn't hit anything. Because if you're out working your neighborhood and you've got a team, or you or yourself, and you're sending that mail and you're dripping on them and you're doing all that. But remember, what? Dripping on them is not drip campaign? That's not how y'all say it in Atlanta?
You
Sorry.
are.
I didn't
It's
mean
fine.
to drip on you. Sorry.
It was just funny.
Since I'm driving, if I see you, I pull over and talk to you. I get out of the car. Because remember, I'm in your neighborhood. Pull the car over. I don't just wave. I stop, and I come out. If I drive by your house and I haven't seen you in 2 years, I've been sending you mail, but I haven't seen you. I call you because your number's in my cell phone, remember? And I call and say, hey, hadn't seen you, just drove by your house, thought about you. Just a touch.
Psychologically, we can, and I said this before, if you said in one of my panels before, anybody can remember, if you ask a random question, how many real estate agents do you know? They can, off the top of their head, remember about 7. That's usually the key number. But they're only going to call the first 2, right? You're playing for that mind game on the first 2. You want to be the first 2 people that they think of on that list. So that you just have to keep reminding them, to keep touching them, and just constant reminders. And I just keep up with them. A lot of them on Facebook and Chatter and Twitter, and yeah, you're right. I actually, if I'm in the neighborhood, I'll actually give them a call and be like, hey, you want to cook me dinner? Hey, how are your kids doing? Because you remember that one tidbit, that quirk about that client that you're kind of like, oh, drive me nuts. But you just remembered. You're like, hey, how are your kids? They're still a little terrible twos. They're still causing
now
you.
They're fine.
Now
they're
yeah,
still terrible.
Yeah.
Kristy?
I was going to say, it depends on what it is. If it's a signed call, for example, and that call comes in, we track all signed calls, okay? So we put it in Google Drive right now, just with a list. What house did they call on? Remember I talked about identifying their information initially, so we already have their cell phone number, we already have their email address. Was it a rental? Do they want, So I have this on a spreadsheet that Shana kind of puts together for us. And we keep that so that when we want to go back and touch base with that person, if we didn't go show them that house, if they didn't go ahead and make an immediate, let's set up an appointment with us, that we have a follow-up tool by keeping it there. I also keep it in Google Drive on Sheets in case that I send a referral out. So I'm primarily a listing agent, which means I don't typically go out to show people houses. However, if you're a referral partner of mine and I send you this, then know that one of the responsibilities of having a referral with me is that I will set you up on a Google Sheet where I just need you to communicate back on that sheet, like monthly, where everything is. So everything for me is in a tracker. I'm a tracker type person. So when the leads come in on the sign call, they go into a Google Sheet. And then we just color code it based on, are they warm, are they cold, are they not? And then we just scrub that list every now and then we have a separate one for rentals.
For me, it comes down to training your clients. My wife, new agent, I told her, the first problem you're going to have is communication, because you're going to have people who are going to want to communicate with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's going to be annoying as all hell, and you're going to be spending a lot of your time herding cats. So what I told her was, train your clients so that you have one day only to just email me or communicate with me extraneous thoughts, and vice versa. So for me, it was Tuesday. For my wife, it's Thursday. All she does is Thursday morning, follows up with clients. Says hi to her top 10 referral people. She follows up with all of her sellers, keeps them in touch. And what was cool about it is that really engaged buyers and sellers, consumers, they will get trained really easily. And they will say, oh, my God, I was expecting your call 11. You called me 11:05. This is awesome. And then they're good for a week. They're good for a week, unless you're emailing them during a deal or something like that. We do too much of this, whatever you want, because we think that if we say no, so they're going to go to somebody else that will. And they won't, man. They won't. Just say, hey, this is how we do it. This is how we communicate. Not everything's a fire. Not everything's an emergency. You're going to be just fine. Train your clients, you're going to be fine.
I think Jeff mentioned this, and I just got to say, I came to my first Retso this month. What a fabulous thing. I saw this buyer and seller panel. Their only concern was communication.
It's what Jeff talked about. Those of you who went to Retso, we did a Hear It Direct here at Retso this year, and it was what Jeff talked about, where it's a panel of real buyers and real sellers on stage, and the audience is all realtors and those of us in the real estate industry. And that was pretty fascinating.
It was unbelievable. They only cared. The only complaint I heard was about communication. That meant somebody didn't manage the expectations very well.
And I guess that is a bit of old school, is your voicemail, right? Setting up proper expectations, I think, is what Nobu is saying. When you have your client and you're doing that, what's the best way to communicate with you? Here's how I communicate. If you're doing that at your initial appointment, but also for us, I do the same thing on my voicemail. So today my voicemail says, hi, this is Kristy. What the day is, I'm not going to be available today. However, if your call is urgent, call Shane at 212-5010, or feel free to text me. However, any calls received today by 6 p.m. will be returned the same business day. I just let them know. That way, it's something so simple, but it's just providing proper expectations with people. And voicemail is that way. I know there's two schools of thought. One person feels like your phone is your cash register. You got to answer it every time it rings. All I say to that is it's hard. You got to be at a place where you can really focus in order to be, really be a people business where you can actually serve that person in the best way.
All right. Thank you so much. We are out of time.